there. So welcome, and well, let's get straight into it. So this is a little background on Scality. We have about 170, a little over 170 large-scale customers. We only sell to petabyte scale customers. You'll see some examples of those later on, but we have many customers who are in the 30, 40, 50 petabyte kind of range of storage. We're well funded. We've done an assessment of our customer base, and our estimates are that we've got about 800 billion plus objects stored in Scality Ring out there with over 500 million end users. So very large scale deployments. And we're San Francisco based. So what's happening in the world is this massive explosion of data. That's what we're about. We are a capacity storage platform. We are built on a core, which is the ring, to actually be able to deliver storage at scale, to be able to scale our storage arrays as you need to grow your storage space and do it totally non-disruptively. So effectively, this is eternal storage. It's storage that keeps running and continuously runs. I like to look at it from how data is changing. So let's look at the medical market. You're completely changing. All of the exome sequence for a human body is about a terabyte of data. If we take that there's 7 billion people in the world, then we're talking about 7 million petabytes of data. This is unbelievable scale of data. But it's not just that space. Look at TV and video. We don't sit around the dinner table at 6 o'clock anymore to watch our favorite series. We get what we want on demand, delivered to us in exactly the format that I care about and exactly the type of content that I want to see. All of that is large-scale, unstructured content. And you have people like Bloomberg who are actually responsible for distributing that content and sharing that content with the world. And then I love what the car industry is doing. Whether you look at Tesla or Renault or Mazda, the reason why you buy cars today isn't necessarily to go out and see whether it has a V8 or a V12 engine and what power you can get from it. It's usually the more interesting is the electronics, it's the connected car, and it's the automated driving experience. All of that is rich data. So data's changing, and it's driving a huge change in the way that we look at storage overall. We're cloudifying more storage, which means we're trying to look at new ways of storing data, private cloud and public cloud services. 367 billion will be the size of the cloud market according to Gartner, public cloud services market by 2020. 80% of the data will be unstructured, but of that same 80%, all of that will actually move to file and object. So this distributed file and object space, which is where we play, is where a bulk of the data is going to end up. And what we do believe is that while we support file and object, the object protocol that is most critical and that we put a lot of effort into building our whole open source program around is the Amazon S3 protocol. That's where the apps are. You need to follow the apps. So what do we deliver? You've got the content side, petabyte scale challenges, whether it's content distribution, backup and archive and compliance, IoT archives. We have two products. The software-defined scale-out Scality Ring. We take commodity Intel servers. They can be heterogeneous Intel servers. We distribute data effectively by sharding data across these servers. And then on top of that, protocol-wise, you've got NFS, you've got SMB, and you've got S3 or object interfaces. Also built on top of that, you're going to see our work that we've done to make it dead easy to use and operate. You're going to see that in a session right after me. This is the stuff that you're going to hear about just in the next few minutes. It's, we think, really exciting. The way I like to think about software-defined is software-defined storage is really two layers. There's the stateful layer of how do you actually store the data and manage the devices that you're storing that data on. And we have the ring for doing that. The next layer up, though, is your data control layer. So if you look at data control and then the storage layer, that data control layer we believe should be spanning multiple clouds. It shouldn't be tied to just the ring. It shouldn't be built even within the ring. It should be a data control layer that can span clouds. The private cloud with the Scality ring and public cloud services, be it Amazon cloud services, Google cloud services, Microsoft cloud services, but one data management layer, a data controller that can span across clouds and provide data services. So 2 products we deliver, Scality ring, we've been delivering since 2009, and the Zenko multi-cloud controller, which we just released earlier this year, actually in July. So what do customers do with it? Here's an example, a large-scale, top 20 worldwide bank. They manage over $1 trillion in assets. They've implemented their own S3 private cloud service on Scality ring. What I like about them is a couple of different things. They've mixed hardware, 130 Dell servers, 12 HPE Apollo servers, 25 petabytes of raw storage, using it for Spectrum Protect and net backups of 2 different app environments, and they're expanding that. Another example is Dailymotion. Dailymotion is a YouTube equivalent platform. They have been deploying Scality ring since September 2014. They started with half a petabyte. Today, they're at 31.75 petabytes of storage, and they haven't taken the ring down once. That service has been online, it's been available. They're just continuously expanding and growing the cluster as they need to. As their data services grow, they expand the cluster. So really interesting to prove the non-disruptive nature and the massive scale. I don't think there's very many object storage companies. There's certainly not very many storage companies, but even in object storage companies, there's very few that hit this level of scale. Medical archiving. I put this one up because I think it's one of the most compelling and interesting growth areas for our space, for the object storage space. We've seen huge growth in just the last 6 months in this. So this is a PACS and patient record medical archive. So it's an image archive for both the kind of the data around your CAT scanning, as well as your patient record. So your patient record database is actually getting archived into this. And I love the fact that we replaced Isilon here. We see that more and more. Isilon is actually quite an expensive platform. It also has challenges if you want to protect and DR data across sites.
Software.
It's actually interesting. It's us working with the medical institute. So we actually sold direct through the hospital network.
Okay.
So it used to be that, and that's a great question. It used to be that to get into the PACS service, you had to basically sell through the PACS vendor. It was a closed environment and you couldn't get into that. That's really changed. There's open efforts around VNA, which is getting some adoption, but even so, you're able to plug in storage into these PACS offerings now as expanded storage offerings.
Yep.
So it's really completely changed. They're relatively small in our book. It's only 2.7 petabytes. Still pretty big.
So what's the largest that you have as a customer?
The largest customer is approaching about 100 petabytes of storage. The product itself is not built with scale limits. So, we haven't really, I think, tested where those boundaries is, but there's nothing theoretically built into the product that will limit it.
So what are your theoretical boundaries?
So I'd have to probably point to the team. Maybe Giorgio, do you have theoretical boundaries?
What's going to be a limiting factor is the network itself. And so if we were to go more than 1,000 individual servers, it's an interesting network problem to solve in terms of
1,000 nodes or 1,000
physical machines. Like we're thinking 4U, 60 drives machine. So we're thinking multiple exabytes already. This is where you would see that the networking is pretty interesting. So how do you do your top of rack switch? How do you connect them together? How do you get good bandwidth between all the nodes? This is where it's going to be interesting.
How does the management and control plane function with your ecosystem?
So it's a shared
right?
nothing, it's fully distributed, so we don't have to do a lot of intercommunication to manage that system. So the management side is pretty light. but it's all this health check and is my data alive or is this copy we build properly that becomes interesting at scale.
I'm actually interested to know about, because in medical imaging, they have a lot of very proprietary interfaces, DICOM, level 7 and so on. How do you guys work with that?
So it depends on the vendors, right? So what we're doing here is we're actually working with GE Medical, GE PACS systems. They've actually gone and built in S3 archiving directly into the product.
So you guys are working
So
with GPACs.
exactly. So the way that we get here is we actually sit down and we work, in every one of these instances. We're working here, as an example, it's Micromed, which is basically a patient record management system, the GE PACS system, NGS Genomics, which I don't know what it is. It's another one of those applications out
That's
there.
something to do with genomics.
It's something to do with genomics. So we have to actually do that integration. The great thing is that most of them, and we're even seeing this happen in the video and media markets, most of them are actually now building in object interfaces directly into their platforms.
And our data, and
So
I don't know if you know that, but our data and working with Epic and other AHR.
so Epic is a Epic is a patient.
Yeah, because that's where
Epic is a patient record management system, and so we haven't done the integration in with Epic. I'll say that's one thing that we are looking at and trying to get them supported. But yeah, we're going through based on which customer we're trying to knock out which application we can.
Okay, is that 100 petabyte customer one ring? Because
It's
a
actually
customer and a installation are different.
Yeah, so that's very fair. It's not one ring; it's multiple rings. I think it's, but I don't know the exact.
And the biggest production ring is?
Biggest production ring, probably Daily Motion is pretty close to it, so it's
So
probably
it's about
40,
30?
that 35, 40 petabytes kind of scale, that kind of level.
Yeah, it's still a whole mess of data.
It's a whole mess of data.
And 80 plus billion unique objects in one ring.
Right.
200
And I know you guys discount the analysts, but we'll just put it up there. They do a little bit of research. We are quite proud that we have got recognized.
If I want
as
an
one of the
opinion, I'll
leaders.
have one.
So what is nice about this, we're quite proud of it because usually startups don't end up here in the leaders quadrant. And it's very hard for them to be up on the y-axis, right? But I think that's really a proof of, as they interview our customers. And I think I'd ask you all to do that. Go meet our customers. We're happy to bring you in to chat with them, talk to them. I think you'd be quite impressed.
You guys